Hello and welcome to iBuzz. I'm your host Nosheen Bukhari, bringing you the latest and most exciting entertainment news from showbiz world. In today's episode, we will discuss Scarlett Johansson replying to Martin Scorsese, followed by a tribute to Barbra Streisand. And of course, last but not the least, a tribute to 2017 release, It. But first things first, let me quickly take you to the top stories of the day. Tom Morello, Bruce Springsteen, and Eddie Vedder cover DCs Highway To Hell for new album. Scarlett Johansson once called Martin Scorsese Marvel Rant old-fashioned. Barbra Streisand speaks up about singing her own way. Rihanna now officially declared a billionaire. Offspring drummer says band axed him from tour for not getting vaccinated. Selena Gomez responds to tasteless organ transplant joke on TV show The Good Fight. And now moving to our top stories of the day. It was back in 2019 when Martin Scorsese hit the most number headlines and made waves. This wasn't for any of his upcoming cult films, but this bold and cutthroat opinion about the superhero culture and specifically Marvel Cinematic Universe films. He had said that they aren't cinema and criticized their very existence. As expected, the stars from the MCU started talking about it, and so did Scarlett Johansson. To have further discussion on this subject, we have entertainment journalist Jessica Fenton with us. Jessica, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me, as always.
So Jessica, a very creative producer and director like Martin Scorsese criticizing another form of art is pretty alarming. He seems concerned and worried more than being critical in his statement. What do you think?
Yeah, look, we can drag Martin Scorsese's name through the mud for saying such things, but at the end of the day, it was an interview and he was just simply answering a question, and he answered it honestly. It's his opinion that, and the quote is that he doesn't think Marvel films are cinema, and he likened them to theme parks. It is an opinion. He's entitled to it. I think the hundreds of millions of fans around the world would disagree, but there you have it.
Right. Chris Evans also added his views in support of Scarlett Johansson and told that original content inspires creative content. And he thinks the new stuff is what keeps the creative wheel rolling. What is your take on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, when it comes to the Marvel cast, these are ride or die people. You know, they're more than just co-stars. They're family. They've been in the trenches for more than together for more than a decade, and of course they're going to stand by each other. And yeah, what Chris said is absolutely right. Look, if you don't want to see sequels, or if you're sick of seeing unoriginal cinema and filmmaking, then that's going to inspire you to make the most original thing there is out there. So even you know, as you can turn a positive and a negative into a positive. If you hate this, film, then you're going to make the antithesis of this film, and that, as a filmmaker, that's a positive, and that's inspiring as well. So, like I said, it's just, there's room for everyone. Just everyone keeps trying to pit each other, pit themselves against each other. Right. When, I don't know, it's entertainment, but I think at the end of the day, I think artists respect other artists, and they're just creating headlines because it, I don't know, keeps them relevant and in the papers.
Right. But Jessica, on the other hand, in defense of Martin Scorsese, because he is creating most of the blockbusters for more than 40 years now, so don't you think that his concern is also justified because of the fact that he himself is an institute when it comes to filmmaking? So don't you think that comments coming from such senior filmmakers should not always be, seen as from a different perspective or from a particular perspective? Although times have changed and we see a lot of innovation coming into the filmmaking's way, but still, being a senior producer or director, don't you think that his concerns should also be taken?
Seriously, no, absolutely. Like, in no way, shape, or form should we dismiss what he said. It's just that at the same time, this is coming from, like you said, a very a prolific and admired and a golden filmmaker, if I can coin that term. I don't think it will catch on. But this is a man who has not suffered at the box office. He makes incredible films with incredible actors. He is awarded for his work. It may have taken a while for him to finally get his Oscar for The Departed, but he got there eventually. People come out to see his films in droves. If his comments were made by a smaller up-and-coming filmmaker who is struggling to get their work seen and struggling to get their work put on screens or even acknowledged by the industry, absolutely, I think it would have more weight. But a man who makes, $100 million films that, blow up awards ceremonies and star Robert De Niro and Leonardo DiCaprio and every name under the sun, his struggle isn't real. He can have an opinion, absolutely, and he's expressed it. But while it does carry weight, I don't think it's as important as people are giving it credit for.
Right, but his opinion was warmly welcomed by a lot of filmmakers, unfortunately. But the fact is, the love and fanship for superhero movies will never fade, and we have witnessed, even during the pandemic, how Marvel had to turn to streaming services in order to provide a solution to their fans. And factually speaking, superhero movies give more businesses to cinemas than other genres. So I would like you to comment on that.
Yeah, like I said, what Martin Scorsese said isn't untrue. It absolutely has validity. But at the same time, cinemas is a business. And what he was getting at was, giving screen time to smaller films and the way we're consuming our content now. And yeah, look, this pandemic has thrown the entire world on its head, and even people like Marvel and Disney, and like I said, like his last film Scorsese released on Netflix, they are having to turn to streaming services. So you can complain about theaters and screens and all that sort of stuff all you want, but that argument is becoming smaller and smaller when cinemas are closing down faster than you can say box office in America, and and they closed down for lockdowns across the world as where each country is dealing with its own dealing with the pandemic in its own way, and we are having to turn to streaming services for our consumption. So everyone's dealing with it in its own way, but I think the cinema is dead argument, it's true. It's there and it's not there at the same time. Look, we're trying to keep people like me who are, ride or die when it comes to cinemas. We're always going to fight for them. But the truth of the matter is, the world is changing faster than we know how to deal with it. And these arguments are. There's less and less weight associated with them.
Right. Jessica, now moving to our next story of the day, Barbra Streisand was paid a tribute by BBC. At the age of 79, she holds 2 Oscars, 10 Grammys, 9 Golden Globes, 5 Emmys, a special Tony, and 42 platinum records. More than that, she redefined what it meant to be a superstar. Do you think she stands as a competition for the young female musicians of today?
No.
She's more than a competition.
She has set a bar so high. We're talking stratosphere high. No one can reach it. This is a woman who has defined what it is to be a diva, to be a workaholic, to be a female in the industry as a singer, a songwriter, a producer in both music and film, a screenwriter, a director, an actress, the whole
package.
The whole package.
Yes. And a smart businesswoman
you can try and reach her. She is the moon. If you will not reach her, but you will fall among the stars.
Yes. Absolutely. And a smart businesswoman who has made millions trading stocks. She also owns the master tapes of all her records. something that the Beatles, Prince, and Taylor Swift, they have never managed to negotiate. And that is something which artists of today really need to learn from her.
Yeah, these are deals. You have to understand that this is a deal that she struck decades ago when people sort of went, sure, you can have your master recordings. They'll be worthless in 10 years anyway. Boy, did she prove them wrong. These are deals, she struck deals that don't exist anymore. They're not even on the table. And as we've seen in the last couple of years with Taylor Swift and her re-recording her masters as well, it's an important factor, but to own your own master recordings is invaluable. And unfortunately that it's not a right afforded to artists these days anymore. But like I said, she was savvy. Barbra Streisand, all those years ago, she knew her worth when all the men in the business didn't. She proved them wrong over and over and over and over again. And she is the last one laughing, and it is glorious to watch all these years later.
And she said this in her recent interview, that I have always had the right to sing what I want. This shows being completely in control of your own career. Yeah,
again, people didn't value her. They called her ugly, okay? Yes. They called Barbra Streisand ugly. They didn't value her at all. They valued her talent. They knew it was there, but her as a package, as a commodity, as a brand, they didn't believe in. So they went, yeah, you can sing what you want. I don't care. You know, we'll give you this much money for this album, and we know we'll make it back and maybe a little bit more, and then you'll like move on to the next thing.
Absolutely.
So so she fought and she won control over her image and her brand and what she sang. And it's incredible. The control that she had. She dominated everything. She won respect because of it. She won awards because of it. She won fans because of it. And it has led her through her entire career, this glorious control that she has. She knew what she was doing, and she did it well.
Absolutely, and that's how she has set an example for the artists of today. Jessica, thank you very much indeed. It was lovely talking to you.
Thank you very much.
That was Jessica Fenton discussing the stories of the day with us. And now moving to other story details of the day. Tom Morello has teamed up with Bruce Springsteen and Eddie Vedder to cover AC/DC's Highway to Hell to preview his new album. The Atlas Underground Fire is set for release on October 15th via Mom Plus Pop Music and has been previewed today by Morello. Springsteen and Vedder's take on Highway to Hell, Morello said about the cover, "Our version of Highway to Hell pays homage to AC/DC, but with Bruce Springsteen and Eddie Vedder bringing this legendary song into the future, one of the greatest rock and roll songs of all time, sung by two of the greatest rock and roll singers of all time." Rihanna is now officially a billionaire and the wealthiest female musician in the world, according to Forbes. The pop star is worth $1.7 billion, with an estimated $1.4 billion coming from the value of her Fenty beauty cosmetics company. The rest of her fortune mostly comes from clothing and makeup lines Savage and Fenty, worth an estimated $270 million, and her earnings from music and acting. She is second only to Oprah Winfrey as the world's richest female entertainer. Pete Prada says he has been dropped from his band, The Offspring, and their tour over his refusal to get vaccinated. The drummer posted a lengthy note on his verified Instagram account saying that he had some unfortunate and difficult news to share. Given his personal medical history and the side effect profile of jabs, his doctor has advised him not to get shot at this time. The Delta variant has been spreading rapidly among those who are not vaccinated, and there have been increasing requirements for concert organizers to corporations requiring people to take the vaccine. Prada wrote in his note that since I am unable to comply with what is increasingly becoming an industry mandate, it has recently been decided that I am unsafe to be around in the studio and on tour. Selena Gomez is responding to a joke about her kidney transplant on the television show The Good Fight. The 28-year-old singer tweeted that she is not sure how writing jokes about organ transplants for television shows has become a thing, but sadly it apparently has. She hopes in the next writer's room, when one of these tasteless jokes are presented, it's called out immediately and doesn't make it on air. Her fans got Respect Selena Gomez trending last month after the Good Fight referenced her kidney transplant on the show. And that is it from Newsroom. We will be right back after a quick short break, bringing you a movie review on the 2017 release, It. Stay tuned. Welcome back. It's time to review the 2017 blockbuster It. 7 helpless and bullied children are forced to face their worst nightmares when Pennywise, a shape-shifting clown, reappears. To review the movie, we are joined by horror author Thomas Simpson. Thomas, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So Thomas, this movie has so much to offer. Hence, do you think it would be justified to put it only under the genre of horror?
I believe that horror is the best way to describe it, but I would also say that it's a coming-of-age movie.
Right. So I would really like you to comment on how every character is so thoughtfully put together, along with particularly the perfect cast.
Yeah, I mean, this is a movie that's obviously based on the iconic book by Stephen King and is also a remake of the 1990s miniseries. And what the director Andy Muschietti manages to do here is get not only a group of kids that are very well cast in their part, but they also seem like real friends. You can believe the fact that these kids actually like each other and hang about, and I find that really adds to the heart of the story, that you can actually believe that the cast are good friends.
Right. And uniquely named after the villain of the movie, It gives a lot of messages, including the fight against fears from the past. Of course, one can never expect anything less from Stephen King. However, in your opinion, were these messages delivered in the same pace as Stephen King has in his novels?
I believe so. It took his time with it. He didn't rush any themes, and he really tapped into childhood fears, especially in the case of the character Pennywise as this dancing clown. Now, the idea of clowns is they're supposed to be comical, they're supposed to be fun, you're supposed to enjoy them. In this movie, it's this terrific demonic villain that can take the form of basically anything, but chooses to take the form of a clown for the most part, and really taps into those kind of childhood fears of isolation, bullied, being afraid of the dark, those type of things. And I believe that the director, based on King's work, really does hammer those points across very effectively.
Right. And Thomas, also when a novel is turned into a screenplay, there are several chances for the original story being overpowered by the script writing. Did you feel like that happening with this movie at any point while watching the movie?
No, and I believe it's because they made the right decision to, rather than do what the book did in the miniseries and jump back and forth from them being adults to children, this movie just concentrates on them as children, and I believe that makes it much more effective. It's quite a long movie, it doesn't drag, but when it finishes, it clearly sets up a sequel and leaves you wanting more, especially if you know how the story is. But no, I didn't believe the original source material overpowered the script in this case. I believe it was a very tight script and it was very well focused in its delivery.
And being an expert in horror genre, how would you comment on the character of It Pennywise, as there was no traditional demons or ghosts in this movie, but it still has a lot of jump scares?
It does. It has its fair share of jump scares, but for me, the most terrifying aspects were the parts where it didn't make you jump. But it was a sustained terror when Pennywise was on screen for a few minutes at a time, and he was creeping up to people, and his entire presence. Bill Skarsgård's performance is brilliant, and he's taken over from Tim Curry, who is iconic and legendary as Pennywise, and Bill Skarsgård did a great job. Yeah, I believe this movie is one of the best, top 3 at least, top horror movies of the last 20 years. I think it's terrifying.
Right. And Thomas, the movie received a bit of criticism regarding the nature of jump scares it has. And according to some critics, the biggest problem is the loud jump scares that feels repetitive and destroys any unsettling moments. What is your take on that?
I would disagree in this case regarding this movie, because I believe that when it comes to it, the director has earned the jump scares. They're not cheap. They're not just thrown in to try and get a cheap laugh or a cheap scare. I do believe he has earned it by the build-up and the suspense he creates in the movie, especially in the opening scene. When you've got Georgie speaking to Pennywise, it does come out of left field a little, but it builds up to it. There is a jump scare, but you can anticipate it coming, and it's very, very creepy before the scare actually jumps. It's already scary before it makes you jump, if that makes sense.
Right. About the camera work, again, there was a bit of criticism on the frames being static at most of the times, and the dialogue deliveries, the camera being, static on a certain character for the longest. So what is your take on that?
I've actually found that quite refreshing. So many movies, especially recently, the average cut will be after like 1.5 seconds. And the fact that the director and cinematographer in this case were more than happy to allow the camera to linger and stay on someone, I thought was very good at drawing you into the story and what the characters were saying. It made the dialogue more important, in my opinion.
Right. So do you think that this actually helped elaborate the story for, a layman?
I believe so, because it's a very, if you read the book, it's a very complicated plot. It's a very complex villain. But in here, they take away all the mythology and just focus on the fact that there's this evil entity torturing and killing children. And by focusing on the dialogue at the right parts, there was no over exposition. I thought it was very, very tight in how it was delivered.
Right. And Thomas, moment of truth, your 3 reasons. Why would you recommend this movie to somebody who has not watched it yet?
It's a very effective horror. The cast are very likeable. They're very easy to root for. You want them to win.
Right.
And third off, yeah, I mean, it will scare you. It will scare you. That's the thing. It's a very, very scary movie. And if you walk away thinking it had no effect on me, I would check your pulse.
Right, right. Thomas, it was great discussing this movie with you. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Good luck.
That was Thomas Simpson reviewing the movie It. And that is it from today's episode. We hope you liked it. Don't forget to share your feedback on the social media link mentioned down below. We'll see you next time. Until then, take care and goodbye.